Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah.
A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Flying with the Foam on HJN. So, I suppose now would be another good time to start highlighting some more things about Nerf as a whole, and in order for me to do that, let me just see what's going on here in the black pad. So, alright, looks like I am going to be getting back to some portions here. Because now is the time that I go on ahead and start talking a little bit about another elite blaster out there, the Disruptor. This blaster itself certainly is quite a nice way to get back into the Rev family of blasters. And the Rev family of blasters was pretty big, actually. By this time, we already have blasters in the Rev family, like the Maverick, Strong Arm, Spylight, Icequake, and some others here and there. The Disruptor, however, being a much more recent addition, though not too recent. This is something that came out in 2017. Just like a handful of other blasters, this blaster itself being a 2017 release, I'd say is a nice way to simply get back to construction and manufacturing of some new Rev family blasters out there. If you aren't familiar with Rev blasters, then well, I'll break it down for you. It's simply put, a 6-shot revolver-like blaster with a large cylinder on the front here and a slide on the back, which does, of course, accompany the way of priming the blaster. But in more recent years, aside from the blaster having its typical sort of slide and pull, that process has, of course, had some unique changes in more recent years. Of course, the Maverick was well known for having the trigger pull, turning the cylinder. But unlike the Maverick, however, starting with the Strong Arm, it would basically be more of a trigger return process that would allow the cylinder to rotate. So, of course, that's basically what that is. Above all that, though, it's still pretty good regardless of how the process goes with trigger pull or cylinder rotation. But if there was one unique thing about the Strong Arm and Icequake especially, and then eventually the Spylight, the Disruptor here tends to rebrand the famous Slamfire pulling process itself. So, that's pretty much another good way to keep the Rev family going. Continue on with some of the unique tropes that Nerf would eventually add on, and this one in particular tends to be different in some ways as well. Morely with appearance and not so much within functionality. It still keeps the original trigger return, cylinder rotation, as well as the Slamfire, but of course it still has a few things about it that are different. For one thing, it does have itself a big tactical rail on the top right here, and not one on the slide itself like the Maverick had. It also has a few other additions of sling mount, including one on the grip, one here in the center, and if you wanted to, you could also hang it by this end over here. Basically like this. Of course, if darts are loaded, that might be a little harder for you to do, but depending on what kind of pegs you have, I'd say you could do this. And the bottom line is, it's possible. But it all depends on how you have your darts loaded and how you have it stored to begin with. And then, of course, you have a large trigger right here. Really large. I mean, it's nice and spacious, so you could fit 2 fingers in there if you wanted to, but yeah, mine's squished a little bit. So it's probably not very recommended, but you still could do it if you wanted to. If you wanted to be more comedic in a way. Then, of course, the grip itself is a bit smaller and a bit more ergonomic in most ways, and not very rugged or bumpy, much like some of the others here and there. And then, of course, there's this part down here in the front where, unlike most of the other Rev blasters, there would usually be a smaller piece of plastic around here to fully encase the cylinder, from the more lateral side. Then of course on the sides themselves, you'd still be able to use your fingers to rotate the cylinder here and there. But unlike those, that's pretty much been removed. So now this whole chunk of the front here is now pretty much exposed. I don't really mind that too much though. So of course, the color scheme is also another big thing I should probably talk about here as well. Because unlike the Strong Arm and Icequake, where they typically have themselves lighter colors and darker colors certainly blending in, this one tends to have more lighter colors situated on the back end here. And then of course with the white stripe facing through here with a nice sort of Disruptor placard in this very unique sort of font that almost reminds me of a mixture of Comic Sans and Arial Black in a way. It's not very much like Times New Roman or other typical fonts that you might use on your Word documents, but it still does look pretty good no matter what. And then you have Elite here in another sort of font right here. I can't really be sure what it is though. It's more like Alien Invasion? I kind of forget what it is. But I certainly know that this looks more like that in comparison to the font that they use for the placard of Disruptor, which is present on both sides. And as a matter of fact, unlike the Elite placard though, where it's only featured right on this side, it's not available on this side. But that's mostly to basically let you know that there are warning labels on this blaster as well, much like every other Nerf blaster out there in the marketplace. So the Elite placard is on one side, and you have warning labels on this side right here. Then of course Disruptor is available on both sides. In most cases you only have one that's highlighted on one side, but here it's on both sides. So it's not very consistent based on placard choices and also the choices of which sides to feature them both on. But I'd say that it's still pretty good that they're at least putting some effort into that and also continuing to improve and innovate here and there. Nerf sure is a championship roundhouse when it comes to delivering us some quality products and quality control that hopefully is still around for a long, long time. So, well, I sure am on a roll here when it comes to talking about Nerf, but this is something I truly excel at in comparison to most out there in the industry. So that's pretty much it for right now here on the channel, and otherwise I'm going to be having a lot of other things to talk about. But until anything else happens and until anything else here on HJN turns up, if you want to see more, go down on my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.